Good evening, my boils, my ghouls, and my zools. Welcome back to AKs74u, and it is the greatest month for language like that because it is October. And unfortunately, we can't really call it Kalash month anymore. We didn't have Red October this month. Didn't have a Kalash Bash, so rip Kalash month. Bummer. So let's get back to this Krinkov thing. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit of its operational use and what it's like to actually take out and shoot, because you see a lot of videos of people out just blasting these things, but no one ever really talks about like what they feel like. They just leave it up to the imagination, you know? So previously we spoke about how Grau adopted the carbine in 1977 and it entered operational use in 1979. It was produced at the Tula plant and was first seen in the Soviet-Afghan War. We did previously discuss how it was designed for tank operators, helicopter pilots, even truck drivers, and of course, special forces. In the prior episode, we went through its entire design history, and at the end of that design, it actually exceeded the requirements, weighing in at 6 pounds and 19.3 inches folded. Feeding from 20, 30, 45, or 60 round magazines, it's an extremely effective platform at both medium range distances from 350 to 400 yards, and of course, close quarters. It's an extremely effective platform in close range with a very limited bullet rise when using 7N6 or 7N10 ammunition. Now, for those who don't know, 5.45 ammunition tends to arc when you shoot it out of a standard AK-74, and it will have a solid flip and arc from about 0 to 37 meters. That arc does actually start pretty fast, and when using 7N6 or 7N10 ammunition, the arc is actually reduced within the first 16 inches, making it have near point-and-shoot capabilities in close-quarter combat situations. Often used in full auto fire, the Soviet manual of arms for the Krinkov would actually tell operators to just point at the belt buckle and rip. In the prior episode about the AKs74u, we discussed Krink variants, including the grenade launching version as well as a suppressed version. However, the standard AKs74u factory Krink would also go on to be used by police from patrolmen all the way up to Oman. The Krink enjoyed a long service life with Russian police, eventually being surplused and replaced in 2008 with the Vityaz and the absolutely bizarre-looking PP-2000. It would also survive the fall of the wall with the KGB's change over to the FSB, where it still enjoys a long service life with FSB still today.
Сука, блядь!
The only other country to natively produce an AKs74u would be Bulgaria. However, other countries that did produce variants of the AK, such as Poland or Czechoslovakia, would have their own versions in things like the Mini Baril and CZ-2000. Often being called a submachine gun, many modern Krink builders still do use that term despite being fed from a full-sized rifle cartridge. The gun would be exported to countries like Iraq, Lebanon, and Libya, who would further export it to Ireland, where it was first discovered in 2008, and that first identified Krink in Ireland would be the revelation that the 5.45 by 3.9 cartridge had now reached the ongoing troubles in Ireland. And finally, you do still see operational use of the AKS74u today, as evidenced by the Russo-Ukrainian War, and you will see use on both sides. However, you see more heavy use on the Ukrainian side, as you know, that is very indicative of which units are being deployed in which areas on the Russian side. And going back to the variants of the Krink, there is actually a replacement for the Krink in production, as production ceased in 1993. However, there is a new version by Kalashnikov concerned with a monolithic Picatinny rail on top, which is very cool. So there's a brief overview of its operational history, but what is it like to actually shoot one of these guys? Because you hear so much about them, and you know, you just see people blast them off and video done. Well, they are very soft shooters, and you can expect a bit of muzzle rise. That is one thing you can expect. There is a difference between linear recoil and muzzle rise. So one thing you can do to mitigate that, obviously, is things like compensators and, you know, adjustable gas and all that. But out of the box, the recoil on the Krink is phenomenal. There is almost none, as people would say. It's a zero recoil gun. However, there is significant muzzle rise. Not so much that you can't control it, but it is there. So being those little caveats, I went out to a Texas Kalashnikov with this guy, and boy, did I pick the right one to bring a Krink. Oh my God. So I went to the range in the morning, got a real quick zero. I mean, I'm talking like a 15 round zero, because, you know, you don't need a shitload of precision at Texas Kalashnikov. You only have one longish range target. It is a match that gets you ready for other matches. And there is, you know, about a 40-yard shot, 45-yard shot. I actually don't know the distance of that shot normally. Might be a little less than that. But admittedly, you know, I wasn't trained up on the rifle. I was going out to shoot it for fun and, you know, kind of experience it, because it's a little bit of an expensive shooter these days, obviously, with 5.45 going through the fucking roof, you know? It's just not something you can dump on right now, you know? Wah, expensive ammo! I mean, dude, the recoil management with 5.45 is absolutely ridiculous, and being that I'm a guy that likes to run fairly factory rifles, you know, I usually just throw like something like an ALG and a compensator and I'm good to go. I don't really mess with the adjustable gas very much. I mean, I do have guns with adjustable gas, but admittedly, I don't mess with it very much, and I prefer the reliability, because everybody I know that uses adjustable gas, I swear to God, everybody I know has had some kind of catastrophic thing go on the clock, and that's not something I want to experience when I got other issues to work out with my shooting, because, you know, I'm not a Mario Parada, you know, like I'm a pretty average shooter, you know. I might be better than the bottom rung, but, you know, I'm definitely not at that top rung. You know, highest I've ever gotten a match was 5th. So, you know, I haven't actually taken a first podium or anything like that ever. So, you know, I got other things to concentrate on, and that's, you know, adjustable gas is just not something I generally go for. Aside from the fact that I'm usually shooting a Saiga these days, and you can't use a K&S with the Saiga, so, you know, an Occam gas block is probably the next best thing, and, you know, those are $200, and, you know, I don't need it with that rifle. It's perfectly fine without it. You know, there is no muzzle rise on my Saiga, especially with the compensator it has on it. I did finally switch it out from the factory Russian one. You know, the old standard 74 style break. So boy, was this the perfect Texas Kalashnikov to bring a jumpy rifle to. I mean, these will shoot just fine without the booster. They obviously are much more reliable with the booster, but, you know, a compensator would help this thing quite a bit. I mean, quite a bit. You know, we need to get some of that gas out of there, because this Texas Kalashnikov was mostly focused on walking and shooting. So if you got a jumpy rifle, oh my God, what the fuck did I do, man? So the weather is absolutely beautiful and feels fantastic today and all this week and everything here in Texas. But when I filmed this video, when I filmed this match, it was still in the days when it was like 100, 300, 405 every single day. So unfortunately, I had a couple stages where my phone overheated again, so I had to go stick it in the car in the shade and just, you know, put a nice cold water bottle on top of it and let it cool down. but I at least did get a couple stages. And this first stage I did get while, you know, ROs are blocking me quite a bit. You can see it's just kind of a step forward stage, and basically it's just targets on your left, targets on your right.
So cool how it like shakes the dust up.
Something like the pussy pad, you know, the GP25, that actually would have helped quite a bit. If anything, with the length of pull, because I generally do run quite a long length of pull personally. But it really actually would have helped with the recoil management just to get a little bit more grip, because, you know, just a factory crank, man, you shoot one of these full auto, you're getting a little bit of the dance in your shoulder, you know, it's just how it goes. Luckily that day I wasn't inundated with FTNs. That's failure to neutralize if you're not a competition shooter. And what that means is you only got one shot on the target. So, you know, I did miss like a couple throughout the day. And, you know, like I said, I'm not the most trained up on this rifle. You know, it's a bit expensive to train on. Then the next closest thing I have to compare would be my M85, which it's kind of hard to compare that to any of my rifles because that's the one that has the most work into it, the most money into it. It's a 1.5 millimeter receiver, and, you know, it does have a Texas Weapons Systems and an Ultimac on there, so the thing weighs quite a bit. It has a full wood furniture set from Kalashnikov, so that adds on to the weight, and it does have tuned adjustable gas, which, you know, it's more tuned on the side of reliability. It's actually only, I think, 5-6 clicks up. I'd have to look at it. It's been a little while since I actually brought that guy out, but, you know, it's just enough to take that edge off. And being that I run a 74 style compensator on there, it's pushing a lot of gas out those sides. So, you know, it's not a hard thing to do with a very heavy rifle, but that thing probably weighs double what a factory Krink does. So, you know, the Krinks are real light, man. They're really lightweight, and that is fantastic. So, you know, if you're running a red dot, I'd probably even recommend raising it up just to the second, you know, like the second highest riser. That's usually shit for AR people that are trying to co-witness. You know, it's not a thing with AK people, so I can't remember the height of the riser I'm talking about. But, you know, the next step up from the flat risers. And, you know, that'd mostly be so you could put your thumb over the top, you know, and actually manage your muzzle rise a little better because, you know, it's not the most manageable using the little, you know, indentations here on the side of the handguard. I mean, you can get a grip on it, but, you know, that's way better than that. So that would have been a nice thing to have, just, you know, a little bit of a higher optic. You know, it's growing pains and learning things when you're shooting rifles. You don't shoot a lot, so you just got to slow down a little bit because, you know, every single shot you're going to have a little bit of a jump. And I mean, shit, dude, you're shooting a full auto one. I mean, you know, they're tack drivers and everything, but, you know, a lot of people with their full auto Krinks have K&S pistons in them, so they got the gas tuned a little bit. Christ, I'm trying to think. I've shot one once that wasn't suppressed. So a lot of people like to flex their Krinks, throw a can on there and everything, and I mean, you know, it is fun. It is awesome, but, you know, once you do that, you've tuned out a lot of the problems. I mean, also when you throw a suppressor on, you've extended the length of the gun, so the jumpiness is not apparent at all at that point. But with the factory Bulgarian booster flash hider combo, it's a little pushy because you are pushing the bolt carrier back. Let's double check we have no rounds in here and just put that magazine down. But, you know, when it's pushing the gas back, even though you have a shortened bolt carrier from a standard AK-74, it is slamming slightly harder. So that's why I say maybe something like trying out a compensator would work, you know. You know what? I actually remember the only time I've shot one unsuppressed, it had a JMac LAF on there. And actually, come to think of it, it was Ashley's gun. So, yeah, Ash's gun is loud as fuck. And it's a lot of fun to shoot. So after this stage, I got maybe about 4 seconds into the next stage before my phone overheated. So that's when I ran back to just throw it in the car and get some shade and all that, because I don't generally bring my camera to the matches, and it's not to keep it safe or anything like that. It's just that it's hard to beat an iPhone these days. And I mean, one thing that it does have a little bit better of a capability with is the stability when you're walking around and running. It does, my camera does have stability control, but it, it's just not as good as the iPhone, and I have to admit that. And man, I don't want to, but I do. New iPhones are really good, and I finally upgraded, so. And no, I ain't flexing. I didn't get no iPhone 28 or anything like that for like $1,800 or anything like that. Dude, I was rocking an iPhone 6 Plus up until a few weeks ago, so give me a break. I finally got a new phone. Ain't flexing. And to gripe about the price just one last time, what a freaking day for a phone to be overheating with a gun this expensive to shoot. But I was able to at least get the shoot house. Gets you a little taste of a real shoot house. If you've never done a real shoot house, if you can find somewhere that has a real shoot house, like a big match, like CQB Brutality, I imagine is going to actually have some. Real shoot houses are absolutely amazing, but ours it's rather small. It's rather small. You only have 2 turns in the thing, so we make do and have it set up different ways and have different entry points and all of that all the time. Maybe once or twice I've done that shoot house and they didn't have that long range target. Most of the targets are fairly close, so it's kind of hard to miss them. You still can if you're going too quickly, but it is still kind of hard. So there was no man-sized targets with the shoot house on this Texas Kalashnikov. There were smaller targets, so a little bit more aiming was needed, because generally you can just kind of point, shoot, and do what the manual of arms says with this thing. However, when you got a smaller target, you probably should aim a little bit. So with its jumpiness, I wasn't sure if I hit one of them targets. So on my way into the shoot house from the initial engagement, I did give each one a little bit of an insurance shot as I was about to take off, because I gotta be honest, I wasn't sure if I hit one. And it's not like shooting 7.62 by 3.9 where when you hit the target you can see the hole. You can't see the hole when you shoot 5.45 and 2.23 on a like at a match. So gave a little bit of an insurance shot, moved on over to the long range targets, cleared one, but I was still kind of finding my 0 on the second one. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it definitely didn't shift because I'm using an RS regulate, and it's everything's in there pretty well. I got everything Loctited. I wasn't trying to get any of my prior bullshit mistakes with long range stuff where something came loose or something like that.
Let me check. Nope, still offline.
Okay.
No sites available.
Pretty close up there. Not much you can really do about that. There's really not much you can really do about that with a crank. It's either this far or closer. So, I think what's probably going to happen in the future when using this thing is going to get the Krinkov Ultimac, or something like a crook rail or something like that for this guy, so I can forward mount it, because I am quite a new convert to forward mounting optics. So I did shoot a match with a 13-inch Galil Ace, and I just decided to push the optic out a little bit, and I was using an EOTech, and generally I put my optics right over the ejection port. That's kind of usually where I used to put them. And then that match, I actually put it forward of the ejection port, and I was just trying to get my close acquisitions a little faster, and I was experimenting with a little bit, but I really liked it a lot. I liked it quite a bit. I was still getting used to that rifle because, man, 13-inch Galil Ace, little jumpy out of the box too. So, I had a couple FTNs that were kind of stupid at that match, but running the forward mounted optic was fantastic, and I really wish I had something like that on this guy, because it probably would have helped with the weight balance too, having something as heavy as an EOTech up front, which Probably wouldn't put a Neotech on this, but probably keep this SLX MD25, its primary arms. But it definitely would have been nice because I do wear glasses. So having it this close, you know, I was having like a parallax issue, like a scope, you know, I don't run my optics this close. So probably should have worn my glasses maybe, you know, I was just wearing my eye pro. So, you know, I not my regular prescription glasses. So, you know, maybe I need to hop on that train everybody else is hopping on and get some prescription Hunter Golds or something like that. Anyhow, as far as its shootability, man, I mean, Krinks are awesome. They are shooters. There's just, you know, little caveats you got to really actually be aware of. And, you know, having a little bit of stickiness here on the back, like some rubber or even taking some paracord. Or one thing I really like to do, little trick you can do, I don't have any hockey tape in front of me, but I can at least tell you the trick. You twist it up like you're making like a string, then you wrap it, and then you cut that off, and then you take the regular tape and wrap it around that. It's what they do with hockey sticks. So, you know, that's one thing I'd probably add into the future, just, you know, for shootability, really. But you do have to be aware of its little caveats like that, you know. Going into the match, I hadn't shot this thing in a match before, and, you know, honestly, just zeroing it out and having fun at the range shooting this thing, it's a little bit different than doing it on the clock and finding out that the optic is just too close for me. And frankly, when it's this close, acquisition kind of sucks for someone like me, at least with my particular vision. So I can't blame any of my scoring or anything like that, like any of my FTNs. Can't blame it on my vision or anything. I'm just saying, you know, like, it's something I'd probably fix in the future, you know. And being fixed that, I mean, getting a rail up front here to mount it on, so I could still put my thumb in front of the optic. Just thinking ahead a little bit. You know, you could run a KNS in one of these to calm it down a little bit if you really, really wanted to. I mean, if you really wanted to, but personally, I don't mind a loud gun. And if you have a compensator that's not pushing the gas back too much with a shorty like this, you know, like for example, you probably don't want to use like a JMac RRD4C with something like this because, you know, it will push gas back a little bit at you. And, you know, when you're thumping little tiny guns like this, I mean, it's a little bit of a face melter. It's a little bit of a face melter. But, you know, you use something that's got more of a lateral type ejection with the gas, you know, something like a 74 style brake. You know, you could also use something like the Strela Sputnik, which they recently renamed, actually, obviously taking away from the Soviet origins of that. I can't remember what the new name of that compensator is, but it's the big old bullnose Strela compensator I was using in my Ukrainian Alpha rifle video. So something like that on one of these, that would be absolutely fantastic because the ports are not angled back too much. So those things actually work fairly well with a shorty. And man, that compensator, it still flattens my shots out more than any other compensator I've tried. And obviously I've tried quite a bit. You know, the only one that I've seen that probably does a better job would be the Unrivaled brakes. And, you know, the Siege is the non-tunable one, I believe. And I have not tried that one, but the regular standard Unrivaled brake is a tunable brake. So if you can't knock your muzzle rise out with that thing, you know, I don't know what will. You know, maybe you're shooting one of them way overgassed arsenals or something like that. But would be kind of cool to try an Unrivaled brake on here. But unfortunately, they don't. The only AK friendly pitch they make those muzzle brakes in is 14x1. So, you know, it's not a big help with a crank. You know, when it comes to price versus performance, that Strela compensator is like, depending where you find it, like $60, $70. Dude, less than half the price of the Unrivaled Siege, or excuse me, Unrivaled tunable brake. And even though it's not tunable, I still haven't found another compensator in my experience that flattens out your shot quite as much. So maybe in the future we will try the Strela on here. Maybe if they start making some more AK friendly pitches with the unrivaled brakes, that would be super cool to be able to try on a Krink. I don't know if you would say unfortunately, but it is what it is mostly, but Unrivaled is owned by IWI Competition Shooters, so the impetus was probably ARs and Galil Aces. So the pitches that it comes in outside of the 14x1 left hand, it's the stuff that you see on ARs and AR-10s and shit like that. So it's not the most AK friendly break unless you're using 14. God damn, it would be cool to have one of those on an M85 or an M92. Oh my God, would that be a thumper? Because let me tell you, a 74 break on an M85, that's a fucking thumper. CNC Warrior makes that. It's a Yugo pitch 74 break, so you can put a 74 style break on your M85 or your M92. So that's a little bit of operational history with military and police and actual operators of the AKS74u, and a little bit of thoughts on its shootability in competitions. Would I take it out to a competition again? 100%. It cannot be understated how much fun these are to shoot. It can't be understated. I mean, without a doubt, I'll say it's the funnest AK to shoot. It is the funnest AK to shoot. They're just hilariously fun. I mean, they're little guys.
Excuse me.
One thing I'm definitely going to do, throw a couple things on here just for my own personal shootability, because it's not that I can't stand an optic this close. It's just like I said, it's not what works with my prescription. And, I'm kind of wishing I would have gone with irons that day, but honestly, I just didn't want to sit there zeroing irons with a Krink. I hope you enjoyed this little overview of operational history as well as its shootability. Trying to cram in as much as we can here. And as I said before in my last update, we do want to put eyeballs on other channels. So really, this segment could not start any other way than talking about the channel that is probably more influential on AK content on YouTube and probably the internet as a whole than Clayco47. Over there, you're going to find a lot of AK reviews. Every now and again, he does review something other than an AK, but you're going to find pretty much the history of the world in AKs over there.
Oh!
You're going to find a lot of shooting tips. You're going to find some gear tips. He's one of the most phenomenal AK shooters you're going to find in the country, period. So if you're just looking on some tips on, say the video that blew him up, how to shoot fast, it's a very worthy video to watch. You want to learn how to, reload faster, because you can replay that as many times as you want and practice those moves. Go check it out. That's Clayco47 on YouTube. Go give the brother a like. Go give the brother a subscribe. Click his bell notification. Objectively, it's just a fantastic channel. So again, thank you, Clay. Thank you, Rachel. You guys, fucking family. I love you guys. And with that, y'all stay safe. Y'all have fun. Y'all do stupid.